Today I'm going to show you how we used artificial intelligence to design a kitchen renovation for the actress Kim Raver, who you might know from Grey's Anatomy, 24, or a bunch of other shows. I'm going to start with how we did this. Then Kim and I are going to take a tour of her finished New York apartment. And at the end of the video, I'll go over why I'm really excited about machine learning and artificial intelligence entering the world of home design. But let's start with the how. I am an advisor for a really cool company called SKIPP. SKIPP uses machine learning and laser scanners to simplify and improve the home renovation process. We start by sending in a Matterport scanner, which uses lasers and cameras to perfectly scan the space. Not only does this create a navigatable video file, it also produces a point cloud, which is an incredibly accurate 3D model of the space down to a fraction of a millimeter. SKIPP then sets up an intake meeting where they learn about the client's style and budget goals for the renovation. With this laser scan and the understanding of the client's goals, SKIPP can then pull from its massive 3D model database of cabinets, tiles, appliances, countertops, and create drawings and renderings of different design options. This includes both floor plan layouts that show how the space is configured, along with renderings that communicate a sense of how the space will look and feel. In addition, SKIPP can show you real-time price estimates for the different design options. Some architecture firms can do this, but by automating it through machine learning, SKIPP can do it faster and cheaper since the design options aren't painstakingly created by an individual by hand. My background's in architecture. I founded an architecture firm. Renderings and then doing all these different options takes a really long time. And when you're doing this as a custom service, as a designer, you kind of want to get the client through the process as quickly as possible because each one of those options takes so long to produce. And to do real-time budget information at the same time, that normally has to come later when you have the construction drawings. So the speed of connecting the budget information to the design options allows you to make faster decisions right at the moment. When you have made your decision, SKIPP issues a detailed set of construction drawings and helps you find a local contractor that can meet your budget goals. Having a design is one thing, but implementing a design is a whole other challenge, particularly these days when there's all sorts of supply chain logistical challenges on top of the normal construction things. Because SKIPP is designing from a database, it has a really nice record of every single component that's going into the project. So that means they can coordinate orders for all these different components to all arrive right when they need to. So you're not getting the cabinets 1 week and then a month later you're getting the appliances. Having that kind of project management and coordination, typically it's reserved for really high-end or big projects, but that's what's really exciting about the technology is it's taking best practices from big professional firms that typically wouldn't do a small kitchen renovation and automating and packaging them down so that they're more available to more people. So I know this may sound a little bit abstract and science fiction-y, but let's take a tour with Kim in her finished apartment. She's very excited about it. And then after that, I will get into kind of the why we're doing this and where I think the future of artificial intelligence and design is going. Kim, we're in your new kitchen. It looks great.
Thanks.
I mean, tell me about what it looked like before all this renovation.
It was just, there was sort of like no cohesion. It was like a lot of sort of mishmash of things, and it wasn't really functional, I think, and I feel like aesthetically it just needed a lot.
Aesthetically, there's a long ways to go.
It needed a lot of help. And I think also what's so amazing is the boxy cabinets and the color, it's mushroom. And I actually sort of took the whole rest of the apartment off of these tones.
So you started here and then you expanded out.
Yeah, because I thought for me, the kitchen is always like a place where everyone always is and convenes and is together, and I thought this color was really different and unique.
It's a great choice. White is a little too institutional, and it's almost like you're not really making a choice.
Yeah.
The bold colors are on trend, but where are they going to be in 5 years?
Right.
This has got a lot of longevity, but it's also not basic. So it's a good mix.
I really love it. The whole apartment, I was going very much for sort of like New York, but like old New York, like the subway tiles, but yet I also wanted it to have a very modern and clean feeling. So the hardware also is like, it's got, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got like
it's got a little knurling on it.
Knurling, is that the word?
Knurling, yes. So yeah, it's great because it's like, one, real fresh, clean surfaces, but this is an older apartment with brick and then that really cool exposed metal door that you did.
Yeah.
This kind of ties between the freshness of this, and it's just a nice little bridge of a little bit of texture. The hardware is a nice way to transition to those other more authentic things, the door and the brick.
But I also, you know, which kind of like brings in with like the island, I was really specific that I wanted to have like a waterfall island on one side, but then on the other side, I had these plugs, outlets.
Plugs,
yeah,
super important.
Super important because no one does work at a desk really anymore. So I figured that way you can plug in your computer and you can work. But I also wanted to be able to have kind of cross-talk so that people, if someone's cooking in the kitchen, someone can be on their computer, but someone can also be talking. And like, I love cooking, and it's rare that you cook in New York, so I wanted to have it functional to cook when you cook or if you're going out.
Tell me about the design process, right? Like, we saw the befores.
The design process was really like, yeah, the befores and afters. It's funny, like, thank God for SKIPP, because I would come up with some kind of crazy idea. And then people would be like, I'm not sure how we're going to do that. And SKIPP has the capability of really showing you in advance what it is and whether it's like...
It makes it so predictable.
Yeah. Which you really, really need in construction, because that can be like a financial, like, just black hole where you just like get sucked into it and then it uses your whole budget.
And there's people that will tell you yes because you're paying them.
Right.
But you don't really know what it looks like. And so for me, like seeing the renderings before, this looks like the renderings.
Completely, because I'm such a visual person in terms of like someone can talk to me about it and I don't understand really what they're saying.
So just what? You're saying floor plans alone just don't really do it for you?
No, because it's not like floor plans. You have to have like a real brain for that, as like almost an architectural brain, which maybe works like for you who's a professional who does it. But like for someone who's like a more of like a creative person, to like have an idea of what you want, it's really great to actually visually then be able to see it.
The thing I always hate in apartments is when there's this awkward space above the refrigerator. Because
like,
they put the cabinets in before they picked the refrigerator, and it wasn't coordinated into one set of ordering. Which is what I really like about SKIPP, because I love designing, so the design capabilities are really cool, but it's the consolidation of all the different SKUs, the appliances, the hardware, the cabinets, the countertops, the tile, the flooring, all into one sort of system that orders it all to make sure that this fits this.
You know, like I told you, I was like doing this from Grey's Anatomy while I'm doing a fake surgery from the set. I'd be like, hold on a second, going and looking at the rendering. Yeah, I was like, okay, almost. That was in my scrubs, right? So to have SKIPP to be able to like show the design, and you could swap out things before it's going to cost you something, which is incredible.
You can see the visual results and the financial results side by side.
Yeah.
And then you added a couple things that I didn't see the last time I was here on the site. One, the wallpaper.
I know, isn't that
That's incredible.
Like, so magical?
That and the door are such bold moves because it's a small space, and you think like, oh.
Will it like make the space look small?
Right.
Will it like?
But it's the first thing you see is this mural, and I didn't realize how good it looks like, sort of like cut right in half. Like this view right here is just incredible. So in general, are you like pretty like technologically advanced? Because I mean, when I first heard about SKIPP, I was thinking like artificial intelligence, machine learning. Wow, this sounds like science fiction.
Like,
and it's like so far from my association of like kitchen and domesticity.
No, I am not like technologically savvy at all. It's like not, no. I think the combination, like what's so amazing about Boxy and SKIPP is it makes it really accessible for the non-professionals.
You can see what you're buying, and you don't have to trust this random contractors. I've worked with great contractors, I've worked with okay contractors. And so often, you're in such a hurry to finish things that you're kind of like under duress, and they're being like, well, we can't get this, do you want this one? And you're like, I don't know, can I see 5 other options? And they're like, no, this is what we got in stock. And so being able to really see it all on the
like,
screen, no matter where you're at in the world.
For me, also, it couldn't be like 3,000 choices because
Right.
I just don't have the time.
Too much choice is not good.
It's not good. It's
Right.
like the paradox of choice,
I don't
right?
want the Cheesecake Factory menu.
No,
thank you.
I really want sort of like what are the most important basics, but yet I still want to have my vision, and that's kind of what is also really great about Boxy is you can choose and make a beautiful kitchen or your cabinetry, but it's not too complicated, if that
Right.
makes sense. It's really accessible.
Well, thank you so much for showing us your very cool New York apartment.
Thank you.
All right, so let's now get into it. Why should we use these things as tools, and what does this mean for the future of home design professionals? My background is in architecture. I taught architecture at Cornell University and Northeastern University, and I founded the architecture firm Zero Energy Design. It focuses on high-end residential with a lot of emphasis on sustainability. In my experience, architecture translates to a little bit of creativity during this schematic design phase, and then a whole lot of busy work to technically implement all of that creativity into construction documents, which inform the builder both in giving a very accurate quote for how much the building will cost to construct, and to sort of meet all the sort of code requirements. So architecture is a creative field, but only a small amount of the work, I would say maybe you're lucky if it's like 30%, and then a whole lot of technical implementation. So yes, we get to create sort of renderings that are really amazing looking and exciting, but for every hour spent on that kind of creative part, there's like 10 hours spent on, checking fire stair code requirements, or right now I'm working on a swimming pool for the hotel I'm doing. So much time into the ADA requirements into that hotel. So what I'm personally excited about for using machine learning is to reduce the amount of time that I spend on the busy work so that I can increase the time that I spend on the creative side. So when I used to take on custom clients, you're trying to get them to make decisions creatively pretty quick so you have enough time in your service budget to implement all of those ideas in a really thoughtful and responsible way. So the shorter it takes me to produce construction documents, the more time I have to iterate and consider multiple options on the creative front. Now today, AI can do a lot of things. It's really good when you have a digital site in the form of a Matterport scan, and it's really good when it has a database full of basically digital Legos in the form of perfectly modeled 3D cabinets, appliances, and so on. You can kind of connect the dots between the scanned environment and this component of off-the-shelf products. What it can't do right now is really invent a new product or a real custom design. So for my house, I want to be doing like a really custom one-of-one concrete kitchen island. This software isn't there yet, but what it can do is for a very like cost-effective middle, sort of like kind of below custom architecture, but above DIY home improvement. What it can do is implement a really efficient set of kitchen options, both in terms of layout and in visual renderings, and do that in a really time-efficient way that reduces your kind of service cost for these things. That way the budget goes more towards the materials and the labor to make the physical thing happen, and less towards the busy work of kind of like getting somebody to project manage and organize it. The other thing that I really like is, in my experience, a lot of design professionals are really good creatively, but less good in terms of project management, which makes sense. If you're a creative, talented person in high school, and maybe you go on to study that in college and then you start a business around that, but maybe you're not quite as strong as like an MBA would be when it comes to administration or working through spreadsheets. Software is really good for this because everything that's modeled into the designs and the renderings that you're seeing has actually information tied into it, so that you're getting, as you're seeing design options, you're getting really accurate cost information item by item. They have to make some assumptions about labor because labor quotes are always going to be a little bit different, but they can get pretty accurate, or as accurate as reasonably could be expected without a general contractor already signed on board during the design process. That's really important because, in my design background and as a developer, we would do cost estimates, but it's like you do the design, then you stop that, and then you do the cost estimate. That takes time, and then you go and you change the design. The ability to have software that can learn, that can do this all simultaneously, means that we're getting to the place where as you're telling the software what changes you want in, let's say, your kitchen island, it's saying, oh, well, that reduced 2 cabinets, which reduced your cost of implementation by this much. And that's really exciting because we're kind of getting to almost like a SimCity video game world where we're making changes, it's visualized in front of us, and we're seeing the sort of cost ramifications at the same time. So a great way to reduce the amount of uncertainty in a design project is to have more synthesized data all happening at once. So SKIPP still uses real humans to navigate the clients through this process. So you'll do this like initial Zoom call, just like Kim did, with basically a design Sherpa that has like a background in interior and residential kitchen design. And they'll sort of walk you through the process. They'll help you sort of, look at your Matterport scan to help you sort of make decisions relative to your budget and guide you towards the different design collections. But they're not doing all of the sort of, sitting at the computer then after they have that meeting with you and having to sort of place each model component by component. And that's where the value is created and the time is saved. Computers are great for renderings, but they can't necessarily define a style out of like cultural inspiration the way a person can. At least not yet they can. So what SKIPP does is they work with experienced designers and they use it to create design collections. So there's like a whole bunch of these collections. Check out their website. They're really awesome. They're well rendered. You can really get a good sense of these different aesthetics. So they say, here's some popular menu items. And obviously you can add and subtract different features, but they give you good starting points because to come up with a design from scratch, if that's not your business, you might just have like a general impression of what you want, but maybe don't know all the names for the specific materials, right? Like people might think that they want like, oh, I want kind of a light colored stone for their countertops, but not really know the term like Carrara marble. So what SKIPP does is they work with great designers and they create these collections. And those are just jumping off points of departure. So you can kind of say like, well, none of these are perfect for me, or maybe one is perfect for you, but you can sort of start with a place and then add and subtract from there. And that is sort of where the limitations of AI kind of is. It's like they can implement it once they have that starting point, and then you can work with it to add and subtract. Now, the consumers are not doing any programming or even dealing with anything complex. You're basically just like answering questions, responding to drawings, saying like, I like this one more than this one, or like, can you move the sink over here? I would like it there, or just basic client feedback that you would have with a normal architecture firm. The difference is the turnaround time with SKIPP is really fast. With every iteration that I used to do for my architecture clients, it was, man, now I got to do all these renderings, new drawings, just because they moved this one thing over. With automation, kind of gives you a lot of flexibility without a lot of human input into it. Now, when it comes to design collections, yours truly has a couple of design collections with SKIPP. I am a sort of an equity owner as part of the advisory team, so I get to have my creative say as well. I didn't go with my most extreme designs. I went with what I thought was like kind of like the most classic versions because I really see this platform as sort of a populist type endeavor. We're not trying to create the front of the cover magazine design that's the most eccentric and the most crazy and gets the most attention. What we're trying to do is create a solution that's kind of missing in the world of design as a service. With my architecture firm, we only really did kind of high-end projects because it takes just as long to design something on the affordable level as it does to design something on the high-end level. Architects typically charge as a percentage of construction budget. So if you're running an architecture firm, you tend to want to have fewer clients that are spending more each time than you would a whole bunch of clients that spread out your liability, but you're only getting a little bit from each one. Clients are always kind of difficult to work with to varying degrees, but they're always a little bit of a hassle. So fewer and higher paying tends to serve the architecture firm or architecture world a little bit better. You can see this when you look at the average price of a home designed by a licensed architect versus the average sale price of an American home. They're just moving more towards the custom higher end world. So what SKIPP is really focused on is kind of like the middle to upper middle market. So people that don't quite have the time or the know-how to do DIY projects, that make a decent amount of money. And so they're really focused on this kind of like $30,000 to $80,000 kitchen renovation range. So if that's your kind of budget for renovating a kitchen, and absolutely comparison shop, they might be a good fit for you. The other thing that I think is really important is that creativity and project management, as I sort of alluded to before, don't always go together. And what software is great at is the project management. So I've looked at the construction documents. They're really clean. They're very detail oriented, and they have really good pricing associated with them. So from there, it's really just finding the localized labor component, which is always a bit of a variable. But as SKIPP continues to grow, they'll be pulling in more information, make you better informed about what is a fair price for that particular market. Again, it's going to be very different in a New York City apartment renovation than it is in, Oklahoma. But as the service continues to expand, you'll see better and better and more precise pricing for all the local labor markets. So this is kind of the first pilot project. Shout out to Kim for being our guinea pig with SKIPP. And you'll be seeing a few more. We're really interested in where this software is going to go. And we have a couple more renovation projects in the books. And I'm working with SKIPP to develop more design collections and figure out how to take this farther. Like, we're kind of using off-the-shelf components yet, but maybe in the future, you go from a Matterport scan to SKIPP sort of software, shows you visualizations, and then maybe it sends it to a CNC and cuts everything out. Who knows? But I'm excited for the design and technology adventure. All right, thanks for watching. Hit me up with this, any questions you have in the comment section below. I will be going through all of these because I'm curious on how people are going to react. And thanks for watching. Bye.